Hello guys, and welcome to a new Steel Division 2 video today by me, Vulcan. Today I have for you a preview of Task Force 45, a new division available in the upcoming Tribute Italy DLC. As a disclaimer, Eugen did give me free access to the DLC, so big thanks to them. Also, please remember that this is an early preview and what you see may be subject to change. If you'd like to read the description on the right hand side, feel free to pause and take a look. But I'm going to be jumping straight on in. As usual, we'll be putting together a quick deck after going through all of the units that are available. So let's start in the Recon tab. So Task Force 45 is this interesting combination of American and Brazilian troops. So you'll see that sort of theme as we continue. But starting in the Recon tab, we have the Bantam here. Those of you who are familiar with Steel Division Normally 44 may have interesting memories about the Bantam, where it was very, very strong. And that was because it was a 50 cal that was armoured, and you could get a lot of them, and they were very cheap. And so you could like run down infantry really, really fast. And I think that will be the case with these Bantams as well, but not to like the same degree, mainly because their availability is quite limited. So whilst you can get 2 cards of them, it's only 3 available in A, 6 in B, and 9 in C. So I guess late game, technically, you could bring in like 18 Bantams and do like some sort of like crazy 50 cal push, but I don't think it will be that effective because there are many divisions that have ways to deal with that, and they're not going to kill armor at the end of the day, so they'll be killed by medium tanks and light tanks very fast. Regardless, it's still a very good 10-point recon unit, which does provide you with radio. It's almost immune to light arms fire. So yeah, pretty solid recon vehicle, the Bantam. Then we got the 50 cal Jeep. This is actually crewed by Brazilians. It's your standard 50 cal Jeep, only available in Phase C though. Then we got these like Ammo and Pioneers. These are pretty much just like logistics dudes that have been thrown into the front line with recon capability. They've got 4 M1 carbines and then a HE grenade. Technically, these will be okay for like dealing with any unit that like bumps into them when they're hidden in particular areas. But I don't know. I mean, 6 availability in Phase A is actually not terrible. They could be useful. Then we have the Franco Atirador. Hopefully I'm going to be pronouncing these correctly. I feel like I'm really, really not, but I'll try my best. These are the Brazilian sniper crews. They've got an M3 grease gun and the Springfield. They have 8 in B and 12 in C. The transports are M3A1 half tracks. If you were to bring them in B, you could use those. And there's also a 30 cal Jeep that you can also use. Transports for these other ones, the Ammo Pioneers have the WC-25s, the one with the HMG there as well. But let's move on to this Recon unit. So this Recon unit is quite interesting for the Brazilians. It has 3 submachine guns between the 2 grease guns and the 1 Thompson, and then it has 3 M1 Garands and a BAR. These are like not terrible. For 25 points, they're actually quite nice. Only 6 available in Phase B though, and then 9 in C. Can be brought in with the M3A1 half track. This isn't a Recon half track, is it? Yeah, it is. Okay, so that's something to note as well. It's a Brazilian Recon half track, so that's pretty nice. Yeah, definitely worth thinking about bringing that in. Cavalry Scouts are available in Phase A, B, and C. Cavalry Scouts are actually quite a nice unit because they have a bazooka and smoke, so they can kind of get themselves close enough to get those cheeky sort of snipes onto armor. So Cavalry Scouts are definitely one to think about adding into your decks. Then we have the M5A1 Recon. It's just standard sort of Recon Stuart. Comes with 3 machine guns. Does technically have a 50 cal here. It's not really shown on the model, but there's a 50 cal and 2 30 cal, so this could be pretty damn effective against infantry. I'm not sure if that's correct, but if it is, then that's pretty good. Pretty good indeed. Then we got the M8 Recon, the Greyhound. This is manned again by a Brazilian crew. In Phase B and C, these are available 8 and 12. Greyhounds are really nice because they're really fast and they can pick off light armor very easily. They can also flank heavier armor in getting inside shots with the 70 mils of penetration, and the 50 cal is good for pinning down infantry, so very nice. There is also the American manned M8, and you can see the camo is different for both, so that's really cool. And yeah, one thing that's really, really impressive with the Tribute to Italy DLC that you'll find as we go through a lot of these decks is the skins on the units are very, very nice. We do have a T-70 here, and you're probably wondering, what's a T-70? Well, it's basically a prototype Hellcat that's been repurposed for Recon in this case. And I think these are going to be actually really nice. So you get 2 of these in Phase A for 50 points pop. 130 mils of penetration on their AP shell with 45% accuracy is not too shabby. So I think these popping in and out of cover with their super fast speed is going to be really nice, whilst also providing radio for your artillery. So yeah, definitely one to watch out for when you're up against the Task Force 45. These are definitely going to be pretty scary. And let's move on to the infantry. So I'm pretty sure these are converted gunners. I think that's what the conv is supposed to stand for. If it's not, feel free to correct me in the comments, but that's what I've kind of gathered from showing this on stream previously. The 13 Neo Enfields there, plus the 2 Stens, these are really nice 15-point squads. I think these are going to be like a nice meaty front line, these British forces. So yeah, very cool. Like the hats as well. Then we have the converted gunners for the Americans, which are actually disheartened because, you know, Brits are better, obviously. But either way, converted gunners do have the M3 grease gun, 13 M1 Garands, and the BAR. So technically, I would say the American ones are better because they do have much more damage at the mid-range. Like with that BAR plus the 13 M1 Garands, you're looking at almost 2.5 damage. Compared to like the 1.3 damage that the converted gunners of the British are going to be doing at the mid-range. So yeah, these ones are going to be pretty nice as well. Then we have the Engenherders. I'm not sure again if that's how I'm supposed to pronounce this, but pretty much engineers, I'm pretty sure that's supposed to be. And they got 2 N38 grease guns and then 6 Springfield rifles with the TNT there. Obviously, their sort of equipment for engaging infantry is not that great. Like at close range, 2 grease guns, it's fine, I guess. But the main thing, of course, is that TNT, which is going to do a decent chunk of damage, and you get 12 in B and 18 in C. In terms of these availability, yeah, they go 12, 24, and 36. That goes the same for both the British and US converted gunners. As for the engineer leader, pretty standard stuff. We've seen it many times before for the US. Can be brought in Phase A. Transports are nothing special. Same goes for everything we've seen so far. It's all GMCs. Then we have engineers. Your standard engineers. We've seen these again in like the 2nd US and the 3rd US. So pretty familiar with these units already. 2 Thompsons, 7 M1 Garands, and the TNT. Then we got the converted gunner leader. These have 2 M3 grease guns. 4 M1 carbines and the smoke. Currently they have like a work in progress icon here, which is actually funny because it is from Steel Division Normally 44, I believe, this icon, which is actually kind of nice. But yeah, 2 available in A, 4 in B, 6 in C for those, and they're okay. Any leader that has smoke is useful, but I feel like there's better options here. Then we have the Placentas. These have an M3 grease gun, 9 Springfields, and then the 2 BARs. So at mid-range, they're hitting almost 2 damage, which is not too bad. You get 15 in B, 27 in C. So the availability on these is pretty good, and they're 12 strength squads, so relatively tanky, which is quite nice. Then we have the Nisei rifles. These have, I think it's Nisei, actually, isn't it? Nisei. These have the Thompson M1A1, 9 M1 Garands, 2 BARs. These are your elite troops for the Americans with the bazooka. These are really, really good troops. And you get decent availability as well, like 10 in B and 15 in C with the upvet is actually really nice. They're also fanatical, which means they don't surrender. So really, really nice squads for sure. And you get 2 cards of these in the deck. So there you go. Nisei leader as well, or Nisei leader, has the 2 Thompson M1A ones, 5 M1 carbines, 3 M1 Garands, and the Springfield. The availability on these is not too great. Only 2 available in B, 3 available in C. I don't think these are really worth it, even though they are a fanatical leader, which is nice to have, I guess. It's just, I don't think it's worth the availability. And then we have the Prasanas leader, which has a bazooka. So 2 M3 grease guns, 5 M1 carbines, and 3 M1 Garands. The mid-range engagement and close-range engagement for these is actually not terrible, but again, I don't really think these are worth the price. I mean, maybe in the late game, like, it could be worth bringing these in just to have some like bazooka leaders with the radio up the front line. The fact they have radios is actually kind of making them a bit more sort of desirable, I guess. Alright, let's move on to the tank tab. Things are pretty simple here. M5A1, seen it before. Does have the 2 30 cows, 8 available in A, 16 in B. Then you got Command M4A1, 2 available in A, 4 available in B. It's just a standard M4, 70 points with your 90 mils of AP and 1,500 meter range with the 50 cal and 2 30 cals. And then you got the M4A1 standard variant, which is exactly the same, just without the commander, without the leadership, sorry, and without the radio. And you get way more availability. So 6 in A, 12 in B, and 18 in C. Alright, moving on to the support tab. Brazilian 30 cal squad. You can get a lot of these. There's actually 12 in B and then 20 in C. Could be a really nice way to sort of like supplement infantry availability in the late game. There's also the Nisei 30 cals as well. Fanatical. Availability is lower though. And I think they come in, yeah, they come in at like 1 vet compared to the other Brazilian squad. So you have to bring them at 1 vet. 8 availability in B, 12 in C. There is also the Browning squad as well. The Brazilian manned Browning. 10 in B, 15 in C. Transports, nothing special. We have the M8 Scott. Again, another unit that we've seen before. Not particularly useful these days, I don't think, because their range doesn't quite, do the job. It'd be nice maybe if they had like 1,750 meter range, because then they'd kind of be useful against other support weapons that had 1,500 meter range. But the trouble with the M8 Scott at the moment is it really kind of like gets picked off by medium AT guns quite easily, when it's kind of supposed to counter them to a certain degree. Although, saying that, I guess the M8 Scott, the main role for it is to be an infantry support against other infantry. So, yeah, maybe I'm looking at it the wrong way. Regardless, 5 available in A, 10 available in B, and 15 available in C. Then we have some 50 cal squads, but these are actually disheartened. Now, because they're disheartened, I think the availability of these is a little bit higher than usual, so 5, 10, and 15. These could be useful. The reason that disheartened machine gun squads are actually quite nice is because they generally outrange things that are going to shoot back. So, yeah, I mean, the fact they are disheartened isn't the worst thing in the world. Of course, keep them out of the line of sight of tanks, but yeah, that's about it. Then we have the GMC supply trucks. You get 3 cards of these if you want them, 2, 4, and 6 availability. M4 105s are in the deck. You can only bring these in from Phase B. You get 4 in B and 6 in C. They come with a 105mm HE shell. No heat on the M4 105. Just the 50 cal and the 30 cals alongside that 105, which does do a lot of damage to units at range and does have 2,000 meter range, which is really good. So bear that in mind. Then we got the 3 commanders. One's an infantry. One's the M20 commander, which is nice and fast. Doesn't have any top armor though, or is weak top armor. And then you got the actual like M4 commander. Alright, moving on to the anti-tank tab. Brazilian bazooka squad is not terrible. It's actually quite nice. They're pretty standard stuff. You're 12 availability in B and 18 in C. Gives you a lot to work with in the late game. And then the bazooka squads here, which are the Nisei, again, these guys are much lower availability. So that's why these bazookas are just so much better, because you don't really need veterancy on bazooka squads for the most part, because if they get shot at, they're dead for the most part. So 80% accuracy should be enough. Just don't be firing into the front of King Tigers, because you will bounce. Bazookas can bounce, by the way. 6-pounder, you can get these Brazilian 6-pounders. They're only available in B and C, though. They don't have APCR as well. That's something to note. 115 millimeters of penetration, 50% accuracy with that 12 round per minute rate of fire. So everything else is normal. The Nisei ones have as well no APCR, but their availability is much less. However, they are fanatical. Not sure quite how useful that is for an AT gun, because if an AT gun's pinned down, it's usually dead. So whether or not it's going to be surrendered doesn't really matter. But it's an interesting trait for an AT gun to have, that's for sure. Then we have the M10s. These have APCR for sure. So APCR on these is very, very nice. You got 2,000 meter range with 185 mils of penetration, and these will be your primary anti-tank in phase A, because the 2 6-pounder cards that you can get can only come in from phase B onwards. So there's definitely that to consider. So availability on these is nice though, and you get a lot of cards. You actually get 4 cards of M10s. So you want to make great use of these. These APCR shells can be super deadly if you get enough shots on target. Their 4 damage means you're probably going to need like 3 shots to kill a heavy tank, and you're going to need 3 shots to kill a medium tank. But either way, the medium tanks you're not going to want to avoid, and you'll generally outrange them with an M10. The heavy tanks, like, you can trade a couple of these for a heavy tank easily, and you'll still come out on top. Anti-air tab, there's a lot of availability here, for sure. M16 MGMCs, you get 4 cards of these. They come 2, 4, and 8 in availability. Great support against ground units, these are actually. The quad 50 cal can rip open infantry. Then there's the Bofors. You get 4 cards of these, 90 points pop, 3, 6, and 9 availability. And then, yeah, I mean, pretty standard stuff. Generally you want to up vet Bofors, just going to point that out. If you can make them 3-star with a leader plus a commander, then these will do a lot of damage. Then there's the M15 CGMC. This goes 2, 4, and 8, same as the M16 at MGMC. But yeah, the CGMC of course has a 37 mil, and these upvetted can do quite a lot of damage, but you lack availability really to upvet them that much. So you'd kind of probably 2-vet them with a leader commander combo if you were going to bring them in. But I think Bofors for the most part are just your better choice. And then we have the new M2 90mm. So this is a brand new unit, but that's unique to this division, I believe. The M2 90mm is a very strong AA piece with 160 mils of penetration, 2,000 meter range, 12 round per minute rate of fire against ground targets. And then it does also have a decent chunk on its HE shell as well, 1.76 damage, but its damage against aircraft is kind of crazy. Like 5.1 means that this is going to do a lot of damage to aircraft for sure. So it's going to be a bit of a beast, I think, with the 18 round per minute rate of fire there against aircraft as well. You bring in some of these in the late game, you're going to really just hammer things out the sky. Alright, artillery. Artillery commander, pretty standard stuff. Got your 2 Thompsons and 811 carbines there. You've got 60mm mortars, which are manned by Brazilians. 14 available in B, with 20 in C. It's a lot. I mean, having already 14 in B is a lot of 60 mils. And to a certain extent, you might be able to justify bringing these in and spamming them about, because having 40 shells is actually a lot. You won't necessarily need supply for these. You can just kind of use them up and then bring in another one, you know. So it could be useful for like longevity in the game. Then you've got the M1 howitzers. These are British. Actually relatively decent because they have radio, but their strength kind of lets them down. Like if they get hit by counter battery, they do die very fast. But yeah, decent howitzer there for sure. The best thing about this deck, though, is it does get mortars with radios. Now, in Phase B, you get 6 81mm mortars with radios and a 9 in Phase C. That's the ones that are Nisei. And then you've got the Brazilian ones, which are only available in Phase C. You get 12 of them. Yeah, I mean, late game radio mortars aren't as effective because they're going to get hit by strong counter battery, but they're still going to be good if you bring them in Phase B, like in this case. There is the 4.2-inch mortar available from the Brits. These come in Phase A and Phase B. Nothing too special about these, just a strong, heavy mortar if you want it, but lacking radio kind of lets them down. There is the 105s from the Brazilians. These come 6 and 9 in B and C. Not a big fan of the 105 caliber in Stow Division 2, kind of seems a little lackluster. So I would not necessarily recommend these too much. The big thing is going to be these 81mm mortar half-tracks, which are very strong, and you can get 2 of them in Phase A. So this is probably going to be like your primary artillery in Phase A. But check this out. We're moving on to the M1 155mm, which is a big old howitzer. This thing is actually looking like a bit of a beast, that's for sure. And yeah, it does 7.75 damage. 4 round per minute rate of fire is a little lackluster, but it does have radio capability, so the accuracy is going to be alright. And also its aim time is going to be okay as well. These can be brought in A and B. In Phase B is probably where you're going to bring these, because in Phase C, you're going to be bringing in these bad boys, the M1 8-inch 203mm howitzer. This thing is nuts. Get 2 in B and 4 in C. Unfortunately, you can't bring them in with any supply, so you're going to be having to definitely supplement supply in the support tab. So bear that in mind. But yeah, this is a very strong artillery piece for the late game. 10.14 damage. Pretty beastly. And you get 2 cards of them. Right, moving on to the air tab. There is the A20J Havoc. This is pretty good recon aircraft, honestly, for 50 points. Because the A20 is really resilient. Well, I say really resilient. It's got medium resilience. But it's the fact that it's like decent resilience with a decent speed that makes it actually not a bad recon aircraft. Then you got the C202 Folgore. This has 580 km/h speed. It does have 2 12.7mm machine guns and then 2 7.7mm machine guns. No cannons, kind of lets it down. I'm not really convinced how strong this is going to be. Availability also relatively low for fighters in A, B and C. So yeah, I'm not sure if that's going to be your best bet. There is the B-25J Mitchell. This payload is pretty abysmal. 1245 kilogram bombs will pin stuff down, but not necessarily do much damage at all. So useful for maybe supporting a push and making stuff surrender, but otherwise no. And even with like 1245 kilogram bombs, you're just not really going to be able to carpet bomb with it either, because it's just not enough there. You'd have to have a really sort of tight formation of B-25s to like carpet bomb an area, and the availability just isn't there for it. So you only get 2 in A, 4 in B, and 7 in C. The price is relatively low for what they are, but yeah, I feel like you hover around with those, they're going to get shot down anyway. Then we have the P-51B 10NA. These are the old Mustangs. They don't have like the bubble canopy. They come with 4 50 cals though, and 680 km/h speed, so still a good fighter, and you get 4 in A, 8 in B, and 12 in C, so availability is off the charts. So compared to the Folgore, the Mustang, definitely worth it. Definitely worth it. Then we have the B-25J Mitchell. This has 4 227 kilogram bombs, which are not bad, really. Like, this is a much better payload, and they have the same availability as the ones with the 45 kilogram bombs. So you go 2, 4, and 7 availability, 120 points, extra 15 points for these better bombs. definitely worth it. And the nice thing about the Mitchell is it does have very good resilience, so actually pretty hard to shoot down and unmass with all these 50 cals. Look how many there are. You're going to shoot down planes that are hanging about. Like, it's got like 4 back-facing 50 cals. It's got 2 on the sides, and I believe it's also got like a bunch in the front as well, as you can see. Like, it's got these 2 or these 4 on the sides. And then it's got like 3 in the nose, so if it heads on fighters, it's going to shoot them down as well, which is pretty nuts. Anyway, moving on. We have P-51s with bombs. These have 227 kilogram bombs. For a fighter bomber, these are not bad. For 610 km/h speed is really, really nice. The only issue is availability. So only 1, 2, and 4 availability. In Phase B, having 2 phase availability might make you take these, but by Phase B there is going to be decent AA on the field most likely, so their bad resilience might let them get shot out the sky quite easy by taking a few shots in the front will kill them very fast. Finally, for air, we have the P-47D with 2 409 kilogram napalm bombs. So I haven't had a chance to try these out, but I would assume that they have a similar sort of napalm splash to the Mosquito, maybe even bigger. But yeah, it's going to be similar to that sort of thing, where they leave a huge sort of patch of napalm on the ground, which is actually going to be pretty nice, like, to cut off reinforcements. But you can't bring these in Phase A, so you won't see any cheese from these. If these could be brought in Phase A, they would be so strong. But thankfully, they're not. Phase B and C, 1 and 2 availability. So availability is super low on these. But I would say it's probably warranted. I'm kind of a bit scared of these. I think they're going to be really strong. Even for just infantry support in sort of the mid-game. So I'm definitely probably going to add them to the deck. Defenses is nothing to look at, really. This is a a C tier division, so it does actually get a lot of defenses. But yeah, there you go. That is it. So let's build a deck. You can see that it isn't really focused around armor too much, but you do definitely need medium armor to support you. So let's go ahead and build a quick deck. Alright, so we'll definitely bring in the Bantams. I just kind of want to bring them because they are sort of a nostalgia from Steel Division, normally 44. Definitely going to bring the T-70s. Those are pretty much a must. And then Phase A, we're probably going to want the Ammo and Pioneers. I think these are actually pretty nice. I think the Cavalry Scouts could also be a good choice because you don't really get much access to bazookas in the Infantry tab. But you do get a lot of bazookas in the anti-tank tab, but they're only Phase B availability. So having like Phase A Cavalry Scouts is actually a good shout, I think. And we can bring them in the WC-25, which I think is faster, yeah, than the GMC. So definitely worth doing there. Alright, after the Cavalry Scouts in Phase A, we probably want a Phase B unit. I want a decent chunk of availability, so I'm either looking at the Recon, the Brazilian Recon, or the Franco Atirador, which is the snipers. You get 8 availability of these, which could be really good for just like late game availability as well. Might save me from adding another card, because I kind of feel like I do want to add some M8s or something in here. But I'm not sure yet. We'll come back to that. Infantry tab, let's have a look. We definitely want one of these, I think. I'm going to bring in some of these early on, I think. The converted gunners of the US. I think they're going to be pretty good. In terms of leaders, I think we do engineer leaders because they're 20 points. And they can kill things at close range. I don't think the converted gunner leader's worth it bringing because of the low availability. And then we might bring in like the Plassenhaus leader, like late game, Phase C. But let's just finish adding like Phase A, B, and so on. So engineers will be useful in Phase A. I'm probably then going to add the Brazilian engineers in phase B. So we have kind of like engineers in both phases. And then we're going to bring in SI rifles in phase B and C. Because, I mean, you got to bring these. These are like so good. And the SI leader's not really worth bringing, I don't think. So other than that, it's just Prasenhas. And phase A, don't think we need another card. Phase B, we don't need another card. In phase A, availability is kind of low, actually. We can't bring these in phase A. We'd have to bring in like more converted gunners to actually sort that out. I might go for phase C, Prasenhas here, and then maybe we'll have to go for another card. But we'll see. Alright, so that's going to be plenty for the late game. I think balanced is alright for this division, just because it does have a chance to bring in quite a lot of artillery and also the bombers in the late game. I think for the Shermans, we're going to want to just go for availability. So I think we just do something like this. I could maybe upvet them all. I'm not sure if that's going to be too helpful. Something like that. Just lots of M4A1s. If we are doing that, getting a second leader in here somewhere is going to be really important. Probably going to have artillery leaders. In the support tab, I'm going to bring in the M4 as the commander. I don't think I need these 30 cows or the Browning. We definitely want to bring in these M4s though, they're going to be useful. We'll bring them in phase B. Other than that, it's supply, but I don't know how much supply we're going to need yet, so I'm going to do that later. In the anti-tank tab, very important we bring in M10s. So I think we bring in cards in phase A. I am tempted to do something like this, where we have higher veterancy, and then like late game, I could just do this. With maybe a card of AT guns. Having the Nisai ones would be better, because they're basically exactly the same. Except one has the fanatical trait. So yeah, we'll bring in the Nisai phase B 6-pounders as well. Having bazookas would be nice, but not going to add them yet. Definitely going to be bringing in both of the cards of the M2 90mm, so we'll do B and C. And then I'm going to do phase A upvetted Bofors and phase B upvetted Bofors. And maybe what I could do is bring in phase C upvetted 90mm. No, I think we could just do something like this actually. Because these Bofors will cover us in the early game easily, and then late game we can just own the skies. Easy peasy. Bringing in an M16 MGMC to support against infantry could be pretty fun. But we'll see if we have points left over. Alright, artillery command. We definitely want. So I think we're going to go with phase B artillery commander. And then I'm going to add some late game artillery. We'll add phase B artillery. I need mortars in phase A. Do I want more radio mortars in B? I'm kind of tempted to do this. Like the phase C 60mm could be super strong. If I dotted them around and used fire at will, it could work out really nicely, but we're going to need a lot of supply here. So we'll add phase B supply, I think, because the mortar carriers should be able to get themselves through with 60 shots in phase A, and then we can do like a phase C card. That's going to leave us with 4 points for air, which is actually not terrible. I'm going to bring in the P-47s in C. We're going to bring in Mitchells in C, and then we're going to do Cobras, or sorry, P-51s, Mustangs in A and B, I think. How many do I need though? Do I really need that many? Because we could just do 8 in B, which is a lot. And then maybe in A, I just bring in one of these. That would be kind of like a spare. It doesn't look like we're going to have any extra points for Recon. I'm not really going to have any extra points for the Infantry tab. The only way that I can think of getting more out of this is maybe doing that, and then we could add 2 points elsewhere, but I think these M10s are going to be so crucial in the early game for this deck. So adding just like one more air unit I think is fine. Actually, we could do B25 Mitchells in A. I'm just going to have to make sure that if I do use those that I've got Bofors up as well. Because otherwise they're going to get shot down. It's risky. I think what I'm going to do is we're just going to do phase A P51s. Yeah, we'll do that. And that's where I'm going to leave it. We'll do Task Force 45. Let me just type that in. And bravo. Job well done. So that's kind of what it's going to look like, I think, for myself, at least for a little while. Balanced deployment type with a decent focus in phase C on M10's 90mm artillery. So there is certainly going to be a decent amount of presence in phase C. Overall, though, I think this could be a very good early game division. If it relies on like the M4s and M10s in the early game, plus some like decent sort of disheartened units here, like these converted gunners, I think in like a Maverick scenario, this could be like a really good deck. Vanguard wouldn't work because a lot of your mainline stuff, like the Nisei, come in phase B, and a lot of Brazilians as well. So it would have to be like a Maverick. I think Maverick would be perfect for this in like a 1v1 scenario. In a team scenario, I think balanced is the way forwards. It might be quite a difficult deck to play against more heavy Axis divisions, but overall, Task Force 45 actually looking to be a pretty interesting division with some nice new units in there as well. Really looking forward to trying out these P47Ds. I will be getting gameplay up of all of the new divisions after they come out, because then I'll be able to play it with all of you guys. But yeah, stream is going to be on Thursday, 8 PM for the release of the Tribute to Italy DLC. So if you want to come along and check that out, make sure to do so. If you want to see more Stone Division 2 content, do make sure to subscribe. But thank you very much for watching, guys. Hopefully you've enjoyed this look at Task Force 45. I'm really looking forward to the Tribute to Italy DLC. It's going to be great. That's all. Thanks for watching, and I will see you guys in the next video. Goodbye.